Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Rachel Maeng Brown. She was a coxswain at Rutgers University on the rowing team, and she's the CEO and founder of Gen Agency, which is a marketing and production agency, and they specialize in talent and brand management, as well as social media production and NAL programming and production. So, hi, Rachel. I'm really glad to have you on here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Can you just start off by sharing a little bit of your experience as a college athlete and sort of how that influenced your career path?
Yeah, I think I think my time at Rutgers honestly is really what defined a lot of my career. Obviously I was a recruited student athlete, so I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, like way up by Canada. Um, but in Syracuse, like all the high schools around Syracuse University all do rowing because obviously Syracuse men's and women's is one of the top teams in the country. So did it from like an early time. Got recruited to a lot of different schools, but ended up choosing Rutgers. One of the reasons was I started out pre-med biomedical engineering, did not end up in that, ended up in economics and business. But, during my time, I think I went through a lot of adversity. And I think, a lot of people say, and a lot of student athletes will talk about the adversity they went through, but I think it was the things that happened to me and what I learned from them, but also, what I did and what I went through is really what defined my career. I had a hard time with my team and my coaches from the minute I got there. There's another coxswain in my class, and she kind of isolated me surprisingly from our other like freshman class. And that kind of led me to be closer with other teams, with other, females on other sports like gymnastics, like volleyball. They ended up being my roommates later. And so I think that right away kind of separated me from the team. Right from there, everything I did was what can I do to help myself in the future, to help my team, to help my university? And I think, the things that I went through to make friends with other teams because of what I went through with this other freshman teammate. And then, what I went through as the years went on when I kind of separated myself from the team and we didn't really get along as much. Those things I think taught me a lot about working through uncomfortable situations and standing up for myself and believing in myself. And that's such a huge thing in being an entrepreneur, but also being like a woman of color in entrepreneurship in a space where you don't really see a lot of not only women of color, but also like young women of color entrepreneurs.
I think like that says something like a lot of people feel like the college athletic experience, like you go and you meet your best friends, but there are a lot of people this isn't talked about enough
Yeah.
where like,
They think, oh, like you're getting
yeah,
your school paid for and like everything's
yeah,
handed to you.
yeah. Like sometimes you're in a really bad situation, you don't have a great social situation, you're forced to sort of figure it out. And like I feel like that's not talked about enough in terms
Yeah.
of like your athletic experience.
Yeah,
Um,
and even to that point, like there are so many, student athletes that actually don't finish out their 4 years or 5 years, maybe 6 years if you have that redshirt year. They don't get to finish it in college for whatever reason. Maybe it was, they got hurt and they just couldn't finish. Like I didn't actually compete my senior year. I was medically retired because I hurt my back my freshman year, and it took that long for me to be medically retired. But there's other athletes that, their GPA, because it's really hard to be an athlete full time and be a student. Or maybe, they had a problem with the coaches or the team or the athletic department or whatever it is. A lot of kids don't finish. A lot of people struggle with their grades. A lot of people have mental health issues that, follow them beyond college. So there's a lot of things I think that, to your point, like people don't think about when you think of a college athlete.
yeah, for sure. Can you talk a little bit about like what led you to the career that you're on now? And like, I know it's very drastically different from the major you first started with, but what sort of
I know.
led you to this career path and like founding this company and like where you are today?
Yeah. So, the high school that I went to in Syracuse, Beeville, Baldwinsville, I was like in a specialized major in high school almost. I was in this program called PLTW. So I did biomedical sciences and engineering as almost like a pre-college path. So all my classes were pretty much about that. So right away, right going into college, I knew like biomedical engineering, I said, like, that's for me. I'm going to cure cancer. Like, that's what I was so set on. And when I got there, college is a lot harder than you think it is. Like it is not high school. So there was that. But then also too, I think, I went through all those things as a freshman, and then I became friends with all these other teams and realized like my experience, like it made me not a spokesperson, but it made me able to like advocate for myself and other people. So I quickly started joining clubs and organizations. I quickly was getting elected and nominated into these executive board seats. And I was representing like student athletes or representing the student body in my constituents that I was from. And so I think that from there, that propelled me into, sorry, what was the question again?
Your career path right now.
Oh, yeah. So from there, I think that kind of taught me, advocacy and being a representative of people, and that there are a lot of people who feel the same way but won't speak up and won't advocate for themselves, like won't put their foot down and say like we need something better. So as I continued on through college, I realized that's what I wanted to stand on. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted that to be a part of my career because that's really who I was. So from that moment on, every internship I had, when I left college, every job I had was about not only learning a different department of every single company because I wanted to start my own business. So I knew I had to have some experience with like business analytics, with marketing, with relations, things like that, but also putting these big names under my belt on my resume because, when you go out and you work with people that don't know you, they look at your resume and they look at the people you've worked with, the people the companies that worked with you and the companies that, you worked for. They look at them almost as like qualifiers. Like, these people have, done the due diligence of like how good are you, how legit are you? So having them on your resume kind of gets you past that initial like who are you? Like why are you here? Type thing. And that's so important being like an entrepreneur, but also being a young female. So I think that, all put together really changed my experience and my trajectory. And then finally, my last corporate job was with the New York Mets. And I think even there, like I went through a lot of adversity, not necessarily anything nearly as bad as when I was in college, but there were, things I had to learn about working for a large company, about working in professional sports. I was in the sales side, so I had to learn sales, but also like standing on my own when people, especially on the sales side, want to belittle you or want to give you a hard time. And I think all of those things put together helped me get to where I am as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think like touching on like your experience like in college and in those leadership positions, I feel like that's such an important part also of like finding your identity while you're in college, like outside of sports. I feel like when I transferred to Canisius, I was a part of SAC and I was a part of a couple other
Yeah,
groups. And I feel like that sort of changed my experience there. And it gave me, a sense of like leadership. And also like I was able to
Mhm.
help others and meet other athletes and gain experience in other areas and meet other people outside of just my sport. So I feel like that sort of really changed my experience there and helped me sort of find
It's like a
things I
perspective.
enjoy.
Like
Yeah.
exactly. As a student athlete, we are with our own community. And I think that's one of the problems that I had was my team was so like it's us against everyone else. And so, our female rowing team was really only friends within the team and then friends with the men's side of rowing. And they weren't really close friends with other teams. We saw each other, we would talk, we would be in classes, but it wasn't like a general consensus on the team that we were close to other teams.
Yeah.
And I think for me, being so close with other teams, even like while I was in college, like my significant other was on another team. Um, and so I think that just opened up the doors for me to have this broader perspective that then allowed me to be in 6 clubs and organizations to then be able to like lead and be an advocate because I had such a better perspective. And even now, I look at things almost in a third party lens because it's not just my opinion and like what I think is right, but you really need to speak from experience, but take everyone's opinions into account when you're doing something.
Yeah. I think it's like one thing that I've sort of learned like going into this last year of my career is like I've really used these past 3 years to sort of find my identity slowly, like outside of my sport and really find things that I enjoy. But, I've found a lot of people that are in what would have been my position right now, like their careers just ended. They didn't really use their college years to do anything outside of their sport and they sort of feel stuck in terms of like
Yeah.
who they
And
are
it's
as a
so hard
person.
because
Yeah.
exactly. And as a former athlete, you get done and everything was done for you, like your
Yeah.
class schedule. I was at a different level where, at least at Rutgers, like because we are Big Ten, a lot more things I have to say were done for us. So like meals were made for us, like
Yeah.
class schedules were made for us. Study hall like made sure that we finished, grades and classes and such. And so you get out into the real world, and the simplest things like, our laundry, our rowing unis, and even like football team, especially, like, you put it on the laundry loop and everything's done. But when you get out there, it's like, oh no, like all your laundry has to be done for you. Like
Yeah.
you have to make your own meals. Like there's no dining hall. There's no meal swipes. And even, little things of like, oh, I'm having this problem. Like I have a group to talk to. Like I have a large group of teammates, of coaches, of advisors to speak to about my problems. Like you don't have that. Once you're out in the real world, like you got to figure out taxes. You got to figure out like how much money can I budget to go to the grocery store to have fun on the weekends. Like you have to make a new friend group. So it's a lot. Like the life after college sports is a huge transition that I think, we talk about, but I don't think that we almost like assign that period of time and that period of life as another like big life changing experience. Much like coming into college or, leaving professional athlete life. Like it's a big transition.
Yeah. And I think like aside from just giving like general career advice, like one of the things that I've been trying to talk about on this channel a lot is sort of using your college years to sort of
Mhm.
figure that out so that when you finish, it doesn't just all hit you at once and like you feel like you don't know who you are, you don't know what to do, you don't even know like what career path to find. Because I feel like when you're, I mean, I was at a point this season where I did think that my career would be over in the next like couple months, but
Yeah.
I sort of felt at peace like with who I was as a person, with my college experience, with the things that I've learned and how I've grown. And I think that that's just such an important message to like share with current college athletes who
Yeah.
might either be like either even beginning their career or nearing the end of their career. Like it's not too late to, start preparing
Mhm.
yourself and thinking about this stuff because I think
Yeah.
you'll be able to finish your career like so much more at peace with like where you are
And I think that was
athletically, personally.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think that was a big thing for me is like I'm always like a forward-looking person, which is good and bad. But I think, I saw when I saw my time going to Rutgers, like it was not only an academic choice, a athletic choice, but also like the namesake of my university and the ties that it has, the size of it. I knew that that was going to take me somewhere after college. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose that university. And even during my time at Rutgers, I knew when you graduate, they want 3 to 5 years of job experience. But how are you gonna do that as a student? Like you can't possibly do that unless you have an internship every year, but also unless you have these other experiences that make you a better candidate because you have real world experiences. And so when I was at Rutgers, everything I did from internships, from being like leaders in student organizations, from taking on projects, from, even like summer jobs, things like that, was to better myself after college. And I think there's definitely a balancing point of doing too much and thinking too forward. But I think at some point, you do have to make that choice that if I want to have a job right after college, if I want to, accelerate my career, but also be ready for that transition, like you do need to think a little forward and kind of plan for it. And, there are advisors there to help you, but a lot of it comes from like your own responsibility and, kind of estimating like what you want to do in the future or at least the interest that you have. But you do kind of have to be on top of that for yourself.
Yeah. And like at least for Division 1 athletes who like have to like basketball and I know like volleyball and hockey and soccer, like a bunch of teams have to be on campus in the summer. Like it's
Mhm.
really easy to say like, oh well, I'm just gonna graduate and like I guess I won't have any job experience because I'm on campus in the summer and I'm always playing my sport. But
Yeah.
like it really is important to like, like maximize if you
Right.
if you can't find a summer job or if you can't do a full-time internship, like is there any like organization that you can join on campus? Is there any like on campus internships you
Exactly.
could do during the school year?
Exactly.
Like that, I feel like that stuff were
Mhm.
things that I was able to take advantage of towards the end of my career that I feel like really helped me. And I
And even like
don't
you
think
can
I would have,
shadow
yeah,
you can shadow leaders at organizations, whether it's, somebody at CBS or, someone in professional sports. Like you can speak to them, you can network with them, you can learn from them. You can even say like, hey, like I'd love to know what you do in a day. Can I shadow you? And maybe it's you take a day off in the summer after you've done training, you go to their office and you're just kind of like a guest and they get it approved and you get to see like all the inner workings of business. But there are things you can do. You really just have to advocate for yourself to find them and also to actually go and do it. That's the other half
yeah,
of it.
yeah. I know you talked a lot about how like during your college experience, you sort of had to advocate for yourself, and because of your situation, you sort of figured a lot out. But were there any mentors during either your college experience or post grad experience that have sort of helped you down your career path or sort of influenced it in any way?
Yeah, I was really lucky. All the, programs that I worked with when I was in college, like the advisor or, person overseeing my work, they were great. They were phenomenal. They either, of course, they knew a lot more than I did, and either, they were really patient with me learning, or they just completely handed me the reins and said, like, you're going to learn by failure and you're going to do it. And if it doesn't work, like, I've got you. I will make sure that everything still goes according to plan, but like you're going to at least start out trying. And so, every advisor that I had on that side, like in my internships and in my programs, like they were really great. And I think that was a lot of the reason why I was successful. And that just continued to grow my confidence and even my audacity to walk into a room and be like, yeah, I got this. Like, plan a whole event for the university. Like, it's totally fine. Like, we're just going to do this. And, speak to a room full of hundreds of people. That for me, I think just gave me the confidence, was that these other people that I worked with had the confidence in me. And then half of it is fake it till you make it. And, they'll just believe you if you're
Yeah.
confident enough to them.
And I think like that's definitely an adjustment, like post college sports, like you're so used to either being like the best on your high school team, one of the best on your team, knowing like what you're doing, being a leader on the field, on the court, whatever it is. But then, it's a very different adjustment getting into the workplace, because no matter what job you're doing, no matter what industry, there's a learning
Yeah,
curve.
you're
You're
entering
not
point.
gonna,
You're a freshman.
yeah, like you're not going to be the best at whatever you're doing right away. And so I feel like that is definitely a huge adjustment for athletes who are used to being like in a
Oh, yeah.
leadership role, or but I do think even though like you are like if you are even just in a beginning position, it is possible to utilize like some of those skills that you learn. Like you can still be a leader in your own right, and you still can, it
Oh,
does
yeah.
take
Like
adjustment,
you'll
but
come into a job and there'll be other freshmen or first years or new hires. And you can be a leader within them. Sometimes, you know, it's it's what the person is looking for, and like that can help you climb ranks. A lot of companies love former athletes as employees because we're competitive, get the job done, we want to be better, we want to keep growing and learning, and we take direction and things like that, criticism very well. So a lot of employers want that and they look for that as undergraduates. But, I think we're so tunnel vision into just competing and doing well and succeeding that we don't really see those other opportunities. But there are some opportunities when you're an undergrad and even when you're graduating. There are lots of companies that are looking for former student athletes. You just have to go find them.
yeah. My last question for you is just, do you have any last pieces of advice for any former college athletes, any athletes who just graduated, who are sort of in this transition period right now and beginning their job search?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. Number one, like enjoy your time. I'm 30 and I miss college. We talk about this all the time. I miss college. Not necessarily school because that was like obviously that's everyone's like least favorite. I don't miss a school. But it was so nice having my friends down the hall or having them in the same apartment as me or having them a couple streets over in another house. Being able to be part of the student body and go to football games and be able to walk to everything you want. And also the financial side, I was on scholarship, I was lucky enough. So I didn't really worry about, where my next meal was coming from. And specifically as an entrepreneur, like we work for our money. So really enjoy that time. I think you're never going to get it back. And those are going to be the favorite years that you look at. You don't have to focus so much on like, I have to be so in the moment. You'll just enjoy it as it comes. And with that, I think also still being able to look ahead a little bit and say, maybe I don't know what I want to do after college, but remember that everything that I do in college does actually affect what I want to do after. Everything you do, every experience you have will kind of craft the idea of who you want to be and what you may want to do or what you like and dislike after you graduate and what career you'll go into. So just taking a little bit of time to understand that, to lean into those things, and then when you graduate, find a job that you like. I've been in so many jobs before that I was physically ill. The job I had immediately after college before I went back to work in the recruiting department, I was a recruiter for like high level jobs. And I was physically ill at that job multiple times because I just did not like it. Didn't feel like I was actually of service to people. I didn't feel like I was actually helping people. And to me, that just ate me away inside. And, I was sick often. And so I think finding the job that you like, or the people that you like there, or the characteristics of a job that you like because of what you experienced in college or even before that is so important. Like that's the thing that you spend most of your day at. The only other thing you spend that much time at doing is sleeping. So you better at least like the people or like the thing that you do. So I think having a little bit of foresight in college while still enjoying your time while you're in college is the best thing that you can do for yourself.